Thank you all for coming to the Anonymous for the Voiceless Outreach Masterclass. There's a lot to cover. There's a lot of new things maybe you've not heard, maybe a lot of controversial things, which I'm excited to kind of dispel here. So, a little bit about me. This is me. This is a $1,000 photo. But yeah. Oh, what? Okay, so how I got here. It started in 10th grade in a chemistry class, and I sat in the front right corner, and behind me sat my very first real crush. So this, I don't know what's happening, but this crush was vegan, and I thought she was so cool, and she told me to watch Forks Over Knives. So I did. I watched it the very same day. And I was like, I'm gonna impress her and go vegan immediately. And that's what I did. I went vegan because of this crush. And we hit it off really well. We were talking a lot really closely for about a year. And I think we got so close, and she told me later on, that she got scared and she ghosted me. So I was ghosted for a year, and I was very sad and frustrated. So I said, you know what? Why am I vegan anymore? Yikes. So I reverted to being non-vegan. And at this point, I learned a lot in this year of being vegan. I learned how to cook for myself. I learned all the how. But really, I didn't know anything about the why. I was just doing it, why? Because of a crush. And then when I went non-vegan, I made these excuses. I said, okay, well, I'll get the pasture-raised eggs. I'll get the wild-caught tuna. I'll only eat animals at restaurants. And I made all of these excuses, and I knew in my heart that it was wrong. Because I was in the vegan online space still, and throughout this time, I kept seeing two words on vegan Reddit, and those two words were "Watch Dominion," and I thought, all right, this is literally 3 years later. I'm 20 years old now. I gotta watch this. Fine, I have some time. You know, it's COVID. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna watch it. And I was so angry. I was angry with myself for making all of these excuses for 3 years and letting the animals down, and I was so guilty. And I still didn't go vegan. I still did not go vegan after watching Dominion. I had a New Year's dinner to go to, and my godparents make the best food. They make great food. They have a catering business. They charge hundreds of dollars for this food. It's delicious. And on that New Year's dinner, there was brisket. And I didn't want to offend them. I didn't want to be the odd one out. I didn't want to have to explain this, that I had just done this, that I really didn't really know why I was doing this exactly. And I had the brisket on my plate. And I was poking and prodding the flesh, and it was in these moments that I'm making the connection, this is not food. And I ate it anyways. But you know what? For the first time, I did not clean my plate. And I was disgusted. I was truly disgusted, and I said from that day on, I am going to be vegan. And I went officially vegan on January 1st, 2020. And then, you know, I'm still a loner here. I got friends online, not really in real life. So for a year, I'm just in my vegan bubble online, and it was okay. But then I met my partner, who should be coming soon. She's at work. And she was non-vegan at the time. And I was vegan, and it made me realize how much I hated seeing someone I loved so much eat animals and be okay with that. But I didn't know how to communicate this. I didn't want to mess up this new relationship. I was building resentment because I didn't say anything, and I was still going down this path of nutrition. So all the way back from Forks Over Knives, I was inspired to go into the nutrition field. I got certified as a health and wellness coach at this time, but I was angry. I was angry with my partner. I would often have these conversations and it would lead to nowhere. But I couldn't take this anger out on her. I didn't want to force her to change. I didn't want to be the bad person. So, where did I put this anger? Of course, I broke some things, but I went to the streets. I went to the dollar store, got a poster board, Amazon.com, got a megaphone, went to Ocala Corners at the Publix on Ocala, and I disrupted the streets by myself. I was yelling at people through the megaphone, "Your food is their genocide. Millions of eggs, millions of hens are killed each year for eggs so you can have an omelet." And people just wouldn't get it. They would roll their windows up, they would roll their eyes at me, they would eat animal products in front of me. There were groups of fraternity boys heckling me, and I felt so powerless. Even with all this angry and frustrated energy out into the world, I didn't feel like I was making any difference whatsoever. And so I burnt out. I felt like I was a loser, and that there was nothing for me to do, really. But I knew in my heart that what I was doing was right. I knew it was right. I just needed to feel like I wasn't losing. So I decided to found Vegan World Now. It's my newsletter, and what I do and what I've done for the last 2.5 years is every month I go into all of the vegan news articles from all around the world, different countries, Bulgaria, China, here in the United States, Europe, plenty of countries in Europe. So over like 50 different sources, I curate with my own eyes, this is not AI, thousands of articles to just find the wins. That's how bad I wanted to feel like I was winning. And so I curated these, and I thought, well, if somebody wanted to feel like the vegan movement was winning, and this was their only news source, then how would I do it? And so that's why I made Vegan World Now. But I'm not here to promote that today. At this time, I also graduated from Florida State University with a Master's of Science in Nutrition, and I became a registered dietitian. And now that my rotations were over, I had a little more time, and I kind of solved my burnout here by taking this break, and I took to the streets again, this time with a table, like the one that you're sitting on, and a banner that said, there's nothing wrong with animal cruelty, prove me wrong. And it was reverse psychology to get people to come to the table. Why aren't you vegan yet? Come to the table, debate me. Like Earthly Ned or Joey Carbstrong or those people that I was seeing on YouTube. And I also leafleted with PETA a little bit during this time. And throughout all of this time, I didn't know a single vegan. And I had put myself out there maybe this is like the 15th time at this point. Until finally, firstly, I took my partner to these and I had her listen to what I was saying. And I think that helped a lot. But also, I found vegan friends. They're sitting right here. They approached the table, and that was really amazing. That really changed my life. And throughout this time, I knew about AV, what we're going to discuss today, but I didn't have a team. I didn't have really anyone to do it with until I met I met Andrew and Emma and some other vegans too by putting myself out there. And so I went through the application process. It takes many hours, and I was inducted as an AV organizer. Also a very long process. Don't just take anyone. And I did my first cube with Andrew and some others on January 3rd of this year. And so since then, I've done 9 different cubes of truth in 3 cities, Nashville, Miami, and here in Tallahassee. I've outreached over 100 different non-vegans, and the success rate has been pretty good. 21 new vegans. Totally effective and totally different than all this stuff that I was doing. So I think that's great. And so now I feel like I'm somewhat qualified to teach you this masterclass here today on World Vegan Day. Happy World Vegan Day, everyone. Woo! Yes. Consistently, I've always loved competitive first-person shooters and drinking coffee. So that's a little bit about me as I insert on the side. But yeah. This is our founder, one of our co-founders and directors, Paul Bashir. He's got his whole story, but what's important for you to know is that he's not just behind a desk. He's the original street activist, and he still does street activism today. Over 1,000 cubes, 30,000 outreach interactions, many of these workshops that we're here doing today, and 10 million views across many different social platforms. And the influence is similar. So the OG Dominion is Earthlings, and Gary Yourofsky is a very famous vegan activist with this speech. So he's also part of AV now. But yeah, this is the other co-founder, Asal. And about AV, so we're a vegan activism organization specializing in street outreach. We're not going to pretend like we know how to do different forms of activism. This is about talking to people on the streets, talking to non-vegans. And what we stand for is the abolition of animal exploitation. We're not here to promote reducing. We're not here to say abuse only is bad. We're not here for just single issues like fur or leather. We're against all animal exploitation. So using someone else for your own benefit, and we resist it, and we want to abolish it. So we have a top-down structure. So this is a nonprofit, but it's structured more like a startup. These are the founders and the directors, and then we have the regional organizers that cover massive regions. So the regional organizer for the East Coast of the United States, her name is Paola. There are regional organizers for like 3 different countries on Europe that are close together. And then there's me, the organizer, who reports to them, who then reports to the directors. And there's the inductions team, people that are making sure that everyone that does become an organizer is the right fit for AV and that AV is the right fit for them. We have a design team, IT team, social media team, and then we have, hopefully, you all. The lifeblood of AV are volunteers. And even though these are volunteer positions, we treat these very important because we're defending animals. So in a way, it's almost more important than our paid job. But why the mask? Why the mask? So Guy Fawkes originally wore this mask, and he wanted to take down the English Parliament in the 1605 gunpowder plot, and he was once hated. But over time, this mask became symbolic of resistance. And what do we resist? Animal exploitation. So, how do we show up? We have a 360-degree feedback culture. So I give y'all feedback, you give me feedback, and it's done privately and compassionately. We don't want to call out people, we want to call in people. So, there are things that I maybe do wrong, or the things maybe you don't agree with, and I'm happy to discuss that privately, and vice versa. So all throughout the chain of command, we're open to this constructive feedback as long as you go through the chain of command. And we're always improving our effectiveness. So like I said, we're not here to pretend like we know how to do restaurant consulting or institutional change or government change or animal rescues or anything like that, or leafleting even. We don't do that. We're loyal to the proven principles that get non-vegans to commit to going vegan on the spot. That's what we want, and we're loyal to these tried and true principles that have been tested over a decade by thousands of street activists here. This is the largest cube of truth in Dam Square in Amsterdam. Hundreds of activists and hundreds of people talking to non-vegans and holding them accountable for their responsibility in the animal exploitation. And we take this being most effective most seriously. So what are we going to learn today? First, we have to define what is veganism, right? Like if we want people to go vegan, if we want people to be vegan, we have to start with just the basic definition. We have to define our terms. Then we're going to discuss vegan outreach, the do's and don'ts of vegan outreach, the 3 core principles of vegan outreach, and the 4 control points of vegan outreach. Then we'll get into the flow chart. So we'll think oh, but if they say this, what do I say? When do I say it? We got you covered. It's already in a flow chart. And then at the end, we'll do a Q&A. So on your table here, you'll have two papers. And on the first paper, I would like you to put your name and your phone number. And on the second paper, I would like you to write down any questions that you have that is brought up or comments that you would like to bring up throughout the presentation. So at the end, I'll take your questions and we'll go from there. So first, what is veganism? Does anyone know the definition of veganism? Can anyone tell me? Yeah, that's definitely simplified, yeah. Destiny, you... I was going to say something very similar. So does anyone know who Leslie Cross is? So Leslie Cross realized that our society lacked a definition of veganism. And he set out to make the definition. And he started with this, the principle of the emancipation of animals from exploitation by man. Then clarified the doctrine that man should live without exploiting animals. Except no one says doctrine anymore, no one says man. So we've clarified it to the ethical principle that humans should live without exploiting other animals. Does anyone have a problem with this? No, it's very simple, it's very clear. It's not about possible or practicable or whatever the vegan society says, and I won't get into the reasons why the vegan society decided to change this definition, but we think it's been clear from the very beginning. The ethical principle that humans should live without exploiting other animals. Put most simply, what the hell is this? Rejecting animal exploitation. So veganism is about justice for the animals. It's not about health or human rights. It's not about the environment. It's not about love or compassion or how much we like animals. It's just about justice for animals by rejecting animal exploitation. So, like I said, veganism is not love or compassion. Can you imagine if I needed to love you in order to respect you, to not disrespect you? Am I inherently compassionate if I don't beat my partner? Am I inherently compassionate if I don't go around in that room and kicking all these kids in there? No, I'm not inherently compassionate. I'm not inherently loving. Imagine, your likability does not determine your rights. How much people like or love animals doesn't matter at all, because this is about justice. So rights are not about how you or anyone else feels. And so It's not loving, it's just the right thing to do. And when we stop pretending like people need to like animals or love animals or whatever it is to be vegan, to live vegan, this approach is just pure truth. We're just here to no longer exploit animals, just basic respect, just to leave them alone. Sane and just. So what is veganism? The ethical principle that humans should live without exploiting other animals. Put simply, rejecting animal exploitation. So now we're going to get into vegan outreach. So what is vegan outreach? So vegan outreach is holding non-vegans accountable, being a medium of truth for the victims, and calling them to action. So we want to speak up for the victims in the same way that we would want to be spoken up for if we were in their position. So, many people are beating around the bush talking about health or environment or ahimsa or whatever, when really the animals just want to be left alone. And we need to speak up for them in that way. So if ever you're speaking to someone and you feel like you are being perhaps too direct or too clear, analyze your position from the victim's perspective. Is it too extreme to just speak up, have a clear, direct conversation with someone when you're being prodded and poked down the kill line, or there's a knife to your throat? Is it so extreme to hold someone accountable for the responsibility for that? No, it's not. In fact, if it were you in a gas chamber, you would probably want to kill your oppressors. You would probably want things way worse than a clear and direct conversation. So it's really important that we speak up for the animals as if we want to be spoken up for. And being a medium of truth by prioritizing them, prioritizing the victims and not the oppressors. Not saying, oh, it's okay that you're making these baby steps. That's not okay. You're still responsible for animal exploitation. So we're not prioritizing the oppressors. We're not prioritizing the people that are exploiting animals. And the core of a successful vegan outreach interaction is centered around this, is holding the non-vegan accountable. There is a vast oversupply of information on how to go vegan. There is a vast undersupply of people being held accountable. If you do this, everything else is details. And honestly, as an activist, you have a lot of power because most people will go their entire lives with no one ever in their whole life holding a mirror to their bullshit. And that's what we want to do. We want to hold them accountable for what they're responsible for, which is what they see on the screens. And if you do this, everything else will go into place. So what we mean by planting seeds is not, verbally leafleting. We're not here giving information. We're here to hold people accountable. I'm going to be saying this over and over and over again because that's the core goal here. They must walk away from the conversation feeling like they're responsible for what they're seeing on the screen. They must know that they're the reason for that. They're not supporting it or contributing to it. They're responsible for it. They're demanding that it happens. Every time they eat animal products, they demand that animals continue to be exploited for them. They're responsible for it. So we don't use those words like contributing or supporting. We use words like responsible, demand. So the goal is a very high bar. It's extremely high. We don't want the conversation to end in anything other than they must go vegan immediately. And they must speak up for animals as well. So we need more of that in the world, and we're not going to demand any less of that. Because there are so many others that are saying, oh, sorry, got distracted. But nothing less is morally justifiable, especially what they've seen on the screens. We're holding them accountable for this. They know that they're responsible for it. And imagine if we shake their hand, smile, oh, everything's all good, they're going to feel like it's totally acceptable for them to continue to exploit other animals. So nothing less than that is acceptable. We're not leafleting, and especially we're not debating either. This is not about debating what's the most healthiest diet or, the environmental statistics or these moral gray areas, when in reality it's very black and white. Either you are responsible for exploiting other animals or you're not. And the reason why it's so black and white is because there are just unnecessary victims. They don't need to be exploited, and they're doing it. So that's it. It's very clear, and we're not debating that. We're holding them accountable. So truth over everything. We want to tell people the truth. So like I said, morality is just black and white in this case. If they try to convince you otherwise, that on their regenerative farm, and when at the end of their life, when they kill the animal with a gun to the head or a knife to the throat, it's okay because they've lived a good life, they're gaslighting you. That's psychological abuse. So don't let them do that. And I'll tell you later on how you can not let them do that and how you can keep your sanity as an activist. But don't let them, because it's not true. And also, telling them the truth, that they're responsible for this, is one of the most loving and respectful things you can do for someone. When we pander and prioritize them over the victims, we're lying. We're lying. We're saying animals are not important. You shouldn't consider them at all. And we're lying, and they feel that. So even if they can't seem to handle it, those that are open will. And they'll cry in front of you. They'll thank you over and over again for this, for telling them the truth. Okay. So they'll sense this. They'll sense that your desire to be liked is more important than the truth. They'll sense that, they'll feel it, and they'll be so glad that you're not holding them accountable. They'll be happy, and they'll walk away changing nothing. So there's a lot of people that do this nowadays, and it's led to a mockery of animals. This is the largest and longest standing injustice, and they're forgotten, pushed to the wayside. We need to defend them, and we need to tell people the truth. So one of the nicest things you can do for people is be brutally honest. Most of them won't be able to handle it because they're so used to sugar-coated bullshit. But their subconscious, their heart, it'll absorb, trust me. As long as your intent is righteous. We're not here playing ego games. We're not here yelling at people. We're not here to make them feel, terrible. We're just there telling them the truth and holding them accountable to that truth, which is that they're responsible for the animal exploitation. And that is righteous. So why don't people seem to care about animals? Well, when we bring in health and environment, we take an already gargantuan issue of animal exploitation and we say, you know what, it doesn't matter that much. So there's a serious lack of focus on the animals. It's always about the humans. It's always about the oppressors. What that implies is that animals just don't matter enough. That animals don't need a seat at the table. That animals don't deserve really to be defended. And that they aren't deserving of liberation. So there's too much plant-based recipes, restaurants, weight loss, deforestation, whatever, all of these issues. And like I said, all this does is detract from the animals. And we're not here sympathizing with the oppressors. We're not here saying that it's okay that they continue to do this. We're holding them accountable for what they're doing here. And we need to speak up. If every vegan just spoke up for animals, then I think people would care more. So, reachability. How do we assess if someone is reachable or not? Firstly, at a Cube of Truth, we don't fucking approach people. They're in our space. They come to us, and we let them watch the footage. And that's already a qualifier. A qualifier is saying that, okay, I'm a little bit open to having a conversation. And because we're not debating, because we're not leafleting and spitting factoids, these conversations are not long. If someone is open and reachable, it takes 3 minutes for them to say, okay, I'm going vegan. 3 minutes. 8 minutes with someone that needs a little bit more time and help with the objections. And not everyone on the streets is worth speaking with. If you say, hello, how do you feel about humans exploiting other animals? And they say, oh, I don't really care. Walk away. Turn your back on them. Don't let these non-vegans, make you feel like you're wasting your time. There are many people that are reachable out there, and we have to focus on those. The people that are open to having the conversation and are open to reflecting, having some self-reflection and changing as a result. And unfortunately, most people are not reachable. Most people are simply not reachable. And when you really internalize this, that most people are not reachable, you can do this for a very long time. Because there are many people that are reachable and that want to have this conversation and that feel like they thank you after having this conversation. And when we focus on those people, it's much better. So don't entertain the bystanders that want to engage in the long, argumentative debates about the amount of crop deaths that happen, or whether or not it's okay to kill an animal in Africa when you're starving or whatever. Like, this is unnecessary. We always bring it back to them. Why are they exploiting animals? Imagine if it were you in their position. We always bring it back to them and their victims. We don't engage in these debates. And also, some people, they do stop, but they also need to go somewhere. And that's fine. If they want to have a short conversation with you, have a short conversation with them. No problem. Like I said, 3 to 8 minutes. But they need to leave either going vegan or understanding that they're responsible for what they're seeing on the screens. And don't underestimate the cunningness of non-vegans that are fueled by their guilt. They will tell you, I'm doing a lot better, or I was vegan, or I'm vegetarian right now, And they want to do everything that they can to get you on their side and to make you feel like, to avoid the accountability. They'll do everything they'll squirm out of it. And it's always fueled by their guilt. And they'll try to tell you, oh, animals don't matter. Oh, animals are, worse than humans. They'll have this human supremacist mindset that it's really just guilt. And don't let that guilt impact you. So just walk away. Like I said, they're in your space, and you're always in control of the conversation. Don't let them control the conversation. When they start asking all of these questions, it's guilt coming up. They really should not be asking many questions. It's either you control the conversation or they control the conversation. There's really no in between. And you always want to control the conversation. And we do this really with the Socratic method. And this is not an approach in and of itself, but it's a method. And it's really just questions. So imagine if we said, animal exploitation is wrong. It's not going to open up a conversation. But if we say, hello, how do you feel about humans exploiting other animals? You're asking the questions. You're in control. They're answering the questions, and they're coming to their own conclusions. Do you agree that humans should respect other animals? Humans should respect other animals. It reminds me from when I had the megaphone. It wasn't really working. People just shut down. They need to come to it on their own. So we ask questions, and this is just some of the flowchart here, and we'll get to it later. Why? Like I said, there is a vast amount of information on how. You can put in a prompt on ChatGPT, and it'll spit out everything you need to know about how you go vegan in 1 second. Every recipe that everyone likes can be made vegan in a second. It doesn't matter. The how, it's a mockery. Imagine if you're in the gas chamber and people are talking about how to make mac and cheese vegan. What the hell? We need to speak about the why. And with a big enough why, with an important enough why, someone can overcome any how. So they need to know why they should be vegan, not how. And they'll ask you, oh, how do I get my protein? Or how do I do this? And I'll tell you what you could say for that. But really, you just assess, if you knew how to do this, would you go vegan then? Okay. And you'll go around like that. So it marginalizes the severity of the oppression. What about vegetarians? A lot of people say, oh, we should give them a pass. They're like us. Okay. Can anyone tell me what it's called to only be racist towards a certain group of people? Why is there a name for only exploiting certain animals? And honestly, everyone's confused about this. There's pescatarian, do you eat fish? Or are you eating milk or just milk or cheese or all of this? Does anyone know what the paleo diet is? Yeah, it's like where you eat the animals, but you don't eat the milk. Crazy. So this is just another diet. This is not an ethical principle. So they should be outreached like any other non-vegan. And we don't even have to focus on milk or eggs. We just focus on exploitation. They'll see it, and they know. And so they're just as responsible for the animal exploitation and should be outreached as such. And in most cases, with more vigor. Because they're pompous. They think, oh, I'm already doing enough. No, you're still responsible. So they're not allies. We need to stop putting vegans and vegetarians with a slash. Because what does that do for vegans? Oh, vegan is just another diet, just like a vegetarian. No, it's not. Veganism is the ethical principle that humans should live without exploiting other animals. Vegetarian is some diet. So don't let other vegans or non-vegans manipulate you into thinking that there's some sort of second version of veganism in which you could only defend animals somewhat and totally not be responsible for the other exploitations that you do. So here's what Paul said. Vegetarianism is more of a problem than meat eating, because it's created this idea that there's this second version of veganism that exists where you can feel like an animal defender without actually having to be one. And I get it. Some people went vegetarian first. I'd say that's a problem with how we communicate veganism and how we communicate about the animals. People do not need to be vegetarian before they can live vegan. It's not a prerequisite. It's not a class that you must take to go take the other class. So they're our target. We want to speak with vegetarians. So we went over kind of our outreach philosophy here. Now we're going to talk about the do's and don'ts of vegan outreach. I don't know why that's happening. So don't try and manipulate people into going vegan with these political or sales games. We're not here to play these games. We're not here to, say that it's okay or whatever, or try to use these flowery language and make them feel like, it's okay. No. And there are no magic words either. There's no magic way in how you say it or what you say to make someone go vegan. It's really about they need to understand that that they're responsible. So that's it. That's your goal. And you'll never have a 100% success rate. So even in sales, you have to know who you're selling to. If someone is not hungry, do you think they're gonna want to go buy a ticket to a buffet? If someone is not reachable, there's really nothing that we can say or any, sales tactic that we can use to make them go vegan. They have to be open. So if they're ready, they'll listen and change. If they're not ready, they won't. How many times do you think I've outreached my mother? My father fell asleep watching Dominion. How many conversations have I had with them, holding them accountable? They don't care. So it doesn't matter, if they're just not ready. If they're not ready, they won't change. If they are, they will. And honestly, if you know anything about the stages of change, there's pre-contemplation, they're not even thinking about it. There's contemplation, they're thinking about it a little bit. And there's preparation, they're ready to make a change. They've already had all the seeds planted. We want those people, and we want to make them change. We want to hold them accountable. Those are the people that we want to focus on. Don't pander. Don't pander to them. Like I said, don't make them think that it's okay that they only exploit animals once a month or once a year, or that they have some sort of rule when they travel that it's okay to eat fish or something like that. They'll sense this. They'll sense that, oh, you're prioritizing the likability. And look what happened to me. I went vegan because I liked someone. And then when they stopped liking me, I was no longer vegan. I'm an example of this. So when we pander to people, when we pretend that living vegan is about, our likability with someone, then we're not telling them the truth. And the truth is that they're responsible. So most people will do this because they want to feel good. They're prioritizing the social comforts. They want to continue the conversation. Well, guess what? No change happens when you do that. And they'll lose respect for you. So oftentimes, they'll understand what you're doing. And if they're open enough, like I said, they'll thank you for holding them accountable and they'll know if you're not doing that. They'll know when you're pushing the victims to the side and that you're saying it's okay. No. And they'll manipulate you into thinking they've gained respect for you. But really, they're just glad you're not holding them accountable for the dead elephant in the room. So don't speak timidly. You can speak however you want to speak. I'm pretty aggressive. I'm not gonna lie. I think I'm too assertive most of the times, and I have to walk myself back. But really, the only thing that matters is that we speak boldly. Is that we don't try and beat around the bush in terms of the victims or that they're responsible for it or not. We tell them clearly and directly what they're responsible for. And if you think that this is too extreme, just having a clear, direct conversation and emboldening the truth to them, if you think for some reason that's too extreme, analyze that from the victim's position. Once again, if it were you in the gas chamber, would having a clear and direct conversation be so extreme? No. And when you don't speak boldly, when you are timid and beating around the dead elephant in the room, it's implied that veganism is not to be taken seriously, and that it doesn't really actually matter if they change or not. But it does. And they need to feel motivated. They need to feel like they have a motive for change. They need to feel that there's no other option for them to remove that guilt and self-loathing than to be vegan. This is not about love of animals. It's about the guilt and the hate that they feel for being responsible for the exploitation of animals. And they need to feel that. So don't talk health or environment. So this is just to show the growth of the organization. At one point, it was about animals, environment, and health. We've just removed this because it's not about that. It's about not exploiting other animals. And this issue is so large and so gargantuan. Why are we attaching other things to it? We're only diluting the plight of the animals. So do make their voices heard. Also, no one actually really cares about the environment. No one's turning off their shower, to scrub themselves and turning off the lights of every single room. No one's really biking to work every single day. Most people don't even recycle. And what does environmentalists really mean? Recycling? No, it's not that. It's much more than that. And honestly, people that claim to be environmentalists, they will already feel like they're doing enough. And they'll try and run away from the fact that animals are still being exploited for them. So, and also health. Health is a human right. Who am I, even, as a registered dietitian, to go out on the streets telling people what they should and should eat for their health? That is not a moral obligation. That is a behavior that you can or cannot or do or don't want to engage with. That's totally up to you. So there's no moral imperative for yourself to be healthy unless you feel like there is. So don't talk health or environment. All this does is detract from the animals. And this is really the only thing that is completely unjustifiable. And also for the environment, once upon a time I thought the animal agriculture industry was the #1 cause of deforestation and climate change. And then I heard it was the third one, and the fourth one, or the second one. I'm not doubting climate science, but we as individuals are not keeping up with that, and we don't really know. We don't really know for sure what is the environmental, impact of this. And also, once again, like health, it just becomes about humans, because humans live in the environment. Oh, climate change? So the people near the equator are going to suffer. It's never about the wild animals that are going to be displaced. It's never about them. It's always about humans. And the animals need their own goddamn movement. Humans have all of the movements under the sun. But the animals need a movement. And we need to be there for them. And they're on our side. So only talk about animals. Don't make veganism about health or environment. So like I said, if you ever feel compelled to talk about health or environment, which sometimes is acceptable if they have a genuine concern about their health. That's, of course, people are making a big shift. You can answer that. But remember their position and bring it right back to the animals. And bring it back to them too. How would you feel? So how would you respond to health questions? So firstly, assess if they're open or not. So if you knew how to get protein from plants, would you be vegan then? If someone is open, they will tell you yes. And then you say, okay, well, you can either answer it directly, or you can just say this one thing. Plant-based diets can be healthy, and there are plenty of vegan athletes and bodybuilders out there. It's a fact. It's not... Sorry. Sorry. But it's a fact. We don't need to talk about cholesterol or heart disease or anything like that. It's a fact that there are people at the top of their game, at the top of the human performance, that are vegan. Okay, sorry. And plus, people already know. When you say, what do you think is the number one advantage of living vegan? Most people they will say, oh, health. Because we've all been told fruit and vegetables are healthy. It's not a freaking surprise that, being vegan can be healthy, but you can also be unhealthy as a vegan. So, it's like, wait. What the heck, man? And honestly, if you look like you move weight around, it speaks for itself. Truly, it doesn't matter if you do or don't, because you're living and breathing and standing in front of them as a living example. But I don't understand what's happening.
What about behind you, Danny, on the wall? Does it say extend, anything like that on the actual panel?
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, see if you can. Try it again.
It says choose, but I don't see that on my screen.
Go ahead and go to the settings on your...
This happened earlier. Oh, okay.
There you go. Cool.
Thank you for your patience. Thank you. So the science is on our side. We know you can be healthy on a vegan diet. All the academies of nutrition and dietetics, they all say at any life stage you can be healthy on a vegan diet. If people have issues with iron or protein, these are totally fine. If there's like some sort of medical condition, most people will say, I have a medical condition, and then they'll tell me, oh, it's my iron. Dude, that's a nutrient. That's not a medical condition, okay? Like that's literally 99% of the time you ask them, what's the condition? I have low iron.
So the meat's working.
Yeah, right? That's crazy. That's insane to me. Yeah. But anyways, this is all really you need to say. You don't, and then you could go right back to it. You know, if this was solved for you, would you go vegan then? And also, I usually say this: is it harder for you to find out how to get enough iron or protein, or is it harder for the animals when you're not vegan? Bring it back to the animals. Always bring it back to them. So don't parrot the statistics or the factoids. We're not here to verbally leaflet. We're not here to give information. We're here to hold non-vegans accountable. So outside of what is asked, you know, there's a part of the flowchart where there's a moment where you can ask them, hey, do you feel like there's anything preventing you from going vegan? And this is after they already feel like a freaking hypocrite and guilty, and you're extending them a hand. And they'll tell you an honest, genuine concern, or they won't, and they'll go through the circle of excuses. But we're not here to give them the statistics. We're just here to bring it right back to the why. Because if they feel like they need to be vegan, they will do so. So, and the conversations lengthen when we argue over these, you know, statistics and philosophical debates, but really just holding them accountable does not take long. Excuse me. So, don't compare the injustices. Oh, well, how would it feel if it were your dog in the slaughterhouse or your dog in the gas chamber? How would it feel like if it were you in their position? Most people have zero empathy, to be real. They've really never been able to put themselves in a victim's position, so we have to do it for them with a mirror. And we say, how would it feel like if it were you? And honestly, it doesn't matter. You don't need to know the response of any argument. You can just say, well, if you were in their position, would you just find what you said to be acceptable? If it's about, you know, like the protein or the iron or something like that. But yeah. So it doesn't come down to whether you can imagine your dog in a slaughterhouse, but whether you can imagine yourself in one. So dogs are the most exploited individuals on the planet, really. We breed them into existence, and they have faces in which some of them can't breathe. They get bone cancer because of how we've bred them. Most people get their dogs from a breeder. Many people see their dogs as accessories. So why are we comparing, you know, this injustice to one of the most exploited beings on the planet and thinking that they have the best treatment? They do not. If they did, why are there kennels? Why aren't there people protesting outside of these things? People don't actually care about dogs. They really don't. What they can feel is how they would feel if they had the knife to their throat, if they were suffocating. So this is proven to be the most effective. Of course, we've tested the dog comparison. We've tested the other injustices like racism or sexism. These don't matter, and this is something that I'm still working on. Really, all it is just coming back to them, how they would feel. So these are the things we don't say. We don't say meat eater because it's way more than just that. This also just implies that it's a dietary thing. Omnivore, doesn't matter if we are omnivores or if we're not. The fact is that we can live vegan. This also implies that there's some sort of natural necessity to have to eat both animal and plant products. Carnivore, this isn't real. At least we know this one isn't real, right? When you put a baby in a room with a rabbit and a carrot, the baby's not going to maul the rabbit to death and play with the carrot. So this one isn't real. Carnist, also about meat eating. This is not about animal exploitation as a whole. Vegan journey, my non-racist journey, my non-sexist journey. That's ridiculous. Baby steps. We're adults. We take adult steps. Plant-based. What does that even mean? Can anyone tell me what this actually means? No, is there plants on a quarter of my plate? On all of it? I don't know. And this one we all probably need to work on. It. Animals are not its. They're who, they're he, they're she. And it's our duty as vegans to correct this culture. That we say he, she, they when we're discussing animals. And that we don't use any of these words. What do we say instead? Okay. We just say non-vegan. It's very black and white. It's either you're vegan or you're not. So just non-vegan. If you want to be more extreme, you could say oppressor even, or exploiter, but you could just say non-vegan. It's fine. So we're responsible for correcting this language when it comes to the way that humans view other animals. So how do we speak? How do we speak when we're out in the public? Hello? You could just start with hello, right? It doesn't need to be so complicated. Just interact like a normal human. We're not here to yell at people, like I said. We're not here to be mean to them. Hello, how do you feel about humans exploiting other animals? If it's a child, hi, how do you feel about what you're seeing here? Hi, how do you feel about others hurting other animals? You can use smaller words. And we do not shy away from children. In fact, we love speaking with children because they haven't been freaking programmed yet by culture and society into thinking that exploiting animals is okay. So we speak to children, and a lot of times parents let you speak to their children, and they'll be open to them having this dialogue with someone else. Or vice versa. You'll speak with the adult, and the kid will notice, wait, my father's acting like a fucking idiot. You'll see that in the kid. So we do speak with kids, and we don't want to sound like a robot. The flowchart that we're going to go over is not a script. It's really not a script. What's important is that you hold them accountable. You can bounce around and just tailor your language. So if someone is a little bit shyer and a little bit, they're speaking a little bit softer, speak soft with them. Hey, do you think that humans should respect other animals? Would you say that you respect other animals? What does that say? So yeah, if they want to keep it short with you, keep it short with them. Don't yell at them. Damn, what does that say? I don't know what it says. Okay. That's fine. So we don't shy away from kids. We don't hide the footage from the kids either. We don't hide it from the kids either. If you're hiding the footage from the kid, also, you go through life, being programmed, whereas we wish that we weren't this way. We wish that we were already the default as vegans, so we want to do that. Also, body language. So don't be like this, right? Like, don't speak to people like this. This is clearly you're closed off, you're argumentative, you're here to have a debate, you're uncomfortable. So what works, the restaurant industry does very well. Just put your hands behind your back. This is very open. This is very neutral. This is very inviting. Don't do grand hand motions like this either. I have to stop myself. I'm a very handsy person, so I try not to touch people so much either. Just very neutral. Keep your hands here. Keep your hands behind your back. Don't use your phone, of course. So, yeah, like I said, also like some neurodivergent folk, they may not be looking at you, so maybe don't look at them either. That's totally fine. So you want to mirror them. Don't use these big words if you're speaking to, a truck driver with little education. And maybe you'll have to up your vocabulary if you're speaking with a professor. It's normal. So you want to match your language, you want to match your body language, but you don't want to be closed off. So do tell them they're responsible. Don't say you're supporting or you're contributing to this. They're responsible for this. It's happening because of them. So this, I think, was a bigger problem when veganism was a bit more popular. This is a fucking mockery to the victims. This is very disrespectful. This is about justice for animals. Can you imagine, like, if you said, like, non-racists just have better sex? Like, doesn't make any sense. Vegans are sexier. It's not giving you a moral obligation. So once again, don't make it about humans, really. So, and when vegans do this, like, how can we expect anyone to respect this cause and take it seriously?
Vegans are sexier, though.
So, to sum up, don't be the vegan that non-vegans want you to be. Be the vegan that animals need you to be. So we went over the do's and don'ts of vegan outreach. Cool if we take a 5-minute break here. Does anyone want a break right now? Okay, cool. And go to the bathroom. I have these. Yeah, I have snack.
Chunk steaks?
Oh, cool. No, thank you. No,
You want?
You can have
Oh,
mine.
yeah, I will absolutely take an Uncrustable, yes.
Really? I was sitting here thinking I need to go home and get food.
I know, I was like, I'm hungry.
Uncrustable. Yeah.
And strawberry one.
You want Uncrustable, Chris?
No, I'm good. Thank you, though.
Marilyn
I
Uncrustable.
appreciate it.
Thomas Uncrustable. Yes. And if you need to use the bathroom, it's basically just out there and to the right. If you need a drink of water, get a drink of water. I'm going to go to the restroom myself. I'll be right back.
Good.
If anyone wants another Uncrustable, I have more Uncrustables.
No, I will not
You will not.
partake.
You want?
Actually, I do. I'm gonna partake. Why did I say that? I'm trying to be polite. I'll take the purple.
Dude, no, this is for you.
Also, this is kind of, if you wanted to look over this, but I don't know if it'll help you now. But
Yeah, I think it's the missing font,
Yeah,
but
that's
I don't know why, because when I was at home, it loaded totally fine.
Okay. Weird. Thank you.
Change your mind?
Maybe I'll make a oops all jelly Uncrustables.
No, they're not gonna do that.
Yeah, they should do that. They literally have an all peanut butter one.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, which is like, what the heck is so weird?
All jelly Uncrustable, yeah.
I was like, that's.
Leah would also love an all jelly Uncrustable.
Yeah. I'll email it.
I'm totally getting my brain.
Do you want another?
Third?
Yeah, what's up?
Email me the slides or something that
Yeah,
I
of
mentioned
course.
earlier because I was coming back from out of town and
Oh,
I do
you're
really
fine.
want to see.
Yeah. You didn't miss that much.
Okay.
So no worries.
Good.
Thanks, Thomas, for being here. Yes.
course.
And of
And-
course, I'll send the slides.
Yeah,
Yes.
Everett decided not to come because I guess he's not. I don't think he's just ready to do some
Totally
anything
fine.
like outreach.
That's
but,
fine.
You know, I'll do it.
Be
for
the bigger brother. The bigger brother, Thomas.
I might have to sneak out like a couple minutes before you're completely done, just letting you know.
Totally fine. Totally fine. But okay, in that case, let me just give this now then. This will be a good opportunity. Yeah. Yes, I do, Marilyn. Give me a moment. There you go, Chris.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. No. You want strawberry or grape? Okay. Yeah. Hello, buddy.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, last call for Uncrustables. I got 4 left. If they don't go, I'm gonna eat them all tonight, and I'm gonna make everyone feel bad.
Upload a video.
Yeah. All right. All right. Thank y'all. So, let's get into the 3 core principles. I've already said these many times, and that's because they're very important. So, the 3 core principles of vegan outreach is holding non-vegans accountable. They need to feel responsible for the animal exploitation that they are responsible for. So like I said, there's so much supply of information on how to go vegan, on even why you should go vegan. But nobody is holding the mirror. Nobody is holding them accountable for this. So we show the hypocrisy. We ask them. We say, do you think that do you feel that other animals deserve respect? Do you think that humans should respect other animals? Okay, and they're exploiting them. So we show them that hypocrisy. So the victim's perspective is the number 2. We want to put them in the victim's position. So there's so much, like I said, we try to, put them in the dog's position or with some other injustice, but really the only thing that matters is that they get put in the victim's position. How would you feel if it were you? If you were in their position and you just said that to me, would you find that acceptable? Notice I don't even need to use any argument or anything that they say, because it's about putting them in their position, in their victim's position. And number 3 is a call to action. So like I said, the bar is really high. The bar is that they need to live vegan as of that day, and that no, it's not justifiable for them to not be vegan as of that day, and they need to speak up for animals. So it's not enough for people to simply agree. It's, oh, you've given me food for thought, they will often say. I'm going to think about it. Okay, well, if it were you in their position, how fast would you want this to end? If it's literally happening right now as we speak. If you were in their position, how urgently would you need this to end? If it were you in their position and I had the knife to your throat, would you want me to think about it? Would you want me to say, oh, I'm gonna slit your throat once a month? No, it's not acceptable. Nothing is acceptable less than taking action. So, and if they were the ones being exploited, they would also want this. If they were on the kill line, they would want people to stop immediately. They would not want people to think about stopping or to slowly stop. They would want it to stop immediately. So, what are the 4 control points? The 4 control points, what you say. So, thanks. So what you say, basically, you have it in front of you. You always want to hold them accountable. You always want to put them in the victim's position, and you want to call to action. That is what you say. So we talk about the animals. We talked about justice for the animals. We don't talk about health or environment, and we always bring it back to the animals and to them. So we want to guide the conversation. We want to be the ones asking the questions. So one time I remember, this is a bad example, but one time I remember we were cubing and some guy came up to me, started asking me all these questions. And I said, all right, I'm happy to answer your question. I'll ask first. And we continued. And I told him, I asked the questions here. And he got so angry, and he just left. Unreachable. Doesn't matter. It didn't matter how many times I answered his questions. He would never go vegan. And that's okay. We'll deal with someone else that is reachable. So these distractions are endless, but really the truth is very simple. It's very clear. Next, how you say it. So just speak boldly, speak clearly, speak directly. Don't sugarcoat things. Don't pander. Don't prioritize the oppressors over the victims. Be firm. And just speak in the same way you would want to be spoken for if you were in their position. The victims need your voice. So who you say it to. This is honestly, I think, the most important one. There's a 3-strike rule. If after 3 times they object in some way, okay, how do you feel about humans exploiting other animals? Oh, I don't care. Sometimes you don't even have to give them 3 strikes. Is that really how you feel? Yeah. Everyone's feeling pretty uncomfortable at this right now, right? Imagine how the non-vegan must feel during the cube. Because for once in their fucking lives, a vegan wasn't willing to put up with their bullshit. So we don't waste our time with them. We simply assess who is reachable. How do you feel about humans exploiting other animals? I feel really bad. This makes me feel guilty. I feel sad looking at this. Great. Do you feel that humans should respect other animals? Yes, of course. They will say, yes, of course, I think that humans should respect other animals. So every single question that you go through in the flowchart is a point of qualification, is a point where a strike can be had. And after 3 strikes, I feel like this conversation is going nowhere. I'm going to walk away. I feel like this conversation is going nowhere. For every day you're not vegan, no, this is happening because of you. I feel like this conversation is nowhere. Thanks for trying. Goodbye. I feel like this conversation is going in circles. I feel like you're not being honest right now, so I'm going to walk away. Literally, you're in control. They're in your space. And when you do walk away, one of 2 things will happen. They will walk away, or they will say, their true colors will come out. They'll be upset because for once, someone wasn't willing to put up with their bullshit, and they'll remember that. People don't remember what you say. People remember how you made them feel, and we want them to feel responsible. But we also want to just focus on, what we control, which is who we actually speak to. If you address 3 objections, like for instance, do you feel like there's anything preventing you from living vegan? If they go 1, the protein. If they go 2, convenience. If they go 3, cost. Guess what? They're going to go again. They're going to go, oh, natural. Oh, my parents. Oh, my culture. They're not going to stop. And it doesn't matter how many times you address these objections. If after 3, they're not going to go vegan, focus on someone else. Your time is very valuable, both as an individual and as an activist. So don't let them waste your time. And there are plenty of people who are willing to act. Spend your time with them. But unfortunately, you will find that most people are pathetic. Most people literally, they get held a mirror to their bullshit and they squirm and they hide. They hide behind corporations. They hide behind governments. They hide behind the entire human race, all to avoid being held accountable. They will hide. And those people are usually never reachable because they don't have that iron in them. They don't have that will to change. They don't have the heart. They don't have the character, unfortunately. And I'm not going to talk about why the humanity is lacking this character, but I truly think it's because no one actually gets held accountable. No one knows what that feels like. But people that do get held accountable and do have that strong character can go vegan immediately, and they will. And that is something we want to reinforce. That's a strong character. What type of person do you want to be when you see exploitation? Do you want to be the person that continues on throughout their day and continues being a part of the injustice? Or do you want to be a strong person that stops this immediately? What does a strong person do when they see injustice? Do they walk away or do they act? the other day, I was speaking to a kid at FSU, we were cubing, and I asked him this question, and he said a strong character, does act. And I said, so how many animals should be exploited for you from today? 0 or more than 0? 0. So vegan from now? And at this point, people will break down because they're confronted that, oh, it's not just lip service. Many people say they're strong. Many people say that they'll act in the face of injustice. But you know what? Many people just don't. They're liars and they're pathetic. But there are many people that also are strong and they're willing to change. So we want to focus on those people. And he started crying. He literally started crying, tears in his eyes, because he was confronted with the fact that he was a liar. He was a liar for being a hypocrite, for saying that we should respect other animals than exploiting them. And he was also a liar for saying that he's a strong character and then not changing. And he's going to remember that. And he's going to go vegan. So also some people, they'll agree. They'll just go, like the flowchart is like a railroad. They'll agree with everything you're saying and they'll just go vegan on the spot. And those are strong people. So how long you say it? Like I said, those 3 objections keep things short. If they go through it and they do this 3 strikes, you end it. And that typically is never more than 8 minutes, never. So these are very short conversations because this is not complicated. It's really not complicated to hold someone accountable. It's really just about justice. So when we over-explain things, when we talk about nuances and all of this, it lengthens the conversation a lot. When we get into the philosophical debates of different things, we don't need to discuss this. We just need to discuss simply that they're responsible for it. And we say what needs to be said and we move on. And so the trolls, we ignore them. There's some trolls that exist in our world, that's fine. We just totally ignore them. We turn our back on them, and typically 100% of the time, actually, that's worked. So, what does the silverback gorilla do in the jungle, right? When they know that no one's gonna mess with them, they just turn their back on them. No one's gonna do anything. No one's ever done anything, really. And in Miami, it was really bad. And still, ignoring always works. Because they want to waste your time. They want to rile you up. They want to get reactions out of you, but your time is so valuable, so don't waste it on them. So that's the 4 control points. And now we're going to get into the flowchart, which I've given to you here today. So this is not a script. This is not a script at all. This is, let me see. This is not a script, and it's up to you to use your best judgment and common sense to move through these steps. So, if they come to you at the screen and they're literally breaking down, you don't really need to ask them how they feel, right? And it's really important that we don't say, what do you think about humans exploiting other animals? Because we found that just opens up the floor for intellectual debates. We want to get to the heart of it. Because the heart can't be programmed. The mind is programmed, but the heart is not. So there are different ways of saying the same things. Like I said, this is not a script. Do you agree that humans should respect other animals? Would you agree that you respect other animals? Would you want to be respected if you were in their position? So many different ways of saying the same thing. So don't worry too much about it. There are core words, really, in each of the flowchart points that you can stick to, but the rest of them, doesn't really have to be exactly. Do you agree that all animals deserve respect? So many ways of saying the same things. But the point is that we want them to agree, right? Because how are they going to feel like they're a hypocrite unless they agree? And they usually always agree, because if you would be a psychopath to not agree with that? So first we qualify and explain, how do you feel about humans exploiting other animals? And so this addresses their mindset and their heart set, where they're at with this. And most people will say bad. It makes me feel bad that we're doing this, or that there can be better ways, or something like that. And you can explain it, we're just showing the most common forms of exploitation. Period. It doesn't even have to be animal exploitation, because this is the largest injustice on planet Earth. We're just showing the most common forms of exploitation. Other animals exploited for their flesh, breast milk, eggs, skin, etc. And you'll know if they're defensive. They'll say, I feel indifferent about it. You can give them a chance or not. It's up to you. So establish the position. Do you agree that humans should respect other animals? Everyone will say, if they're not trolling, yes. They'll agree. They think they respect other animals. They've never kicked a dog down the street. We assess psychopaths by if they hurt other animals in childhood. Most people are not psychopaths. So most people, almost all people, will say yes. And if they don't say yes, you can ask them again, do you really feel that way? You can give them a chance or not. Okay, and you can just walk away. At any point in the conversation, you can just walk away, no explanation. It's the most powerful thing you can do, because they're in your space. Expose the hypocrisy. So at this point, they've agreed. So on the one hand, we've showed them a problem. This is the problem. Can you truly respect other animals if you exploit them for their flesh, milk, eggs, or any other purpose? Can you truly respect someone else while exploiting them? And people will say, typically here, they'll bring up the humane myth. They'll say, oh, well, I think if they were given a good life on a big farm, then it would be fine. Okay, can I do that to you? Can I kill you right now if you're asleep? And have you been given a good life? You have shelter, food, you have everything you need. In your sleep, can I just kill you? Put them in the victim's position. And then also here they'll open up different things to say about it. Do you feel like this would be an acceptable excuse to justify exploiting you? If you watch like Earthly Ned or Joey Carbstrong, they'll always try to debate. They'll try to dismantle what the other person is saying, and they give all the power to the non-vegan. But really, we just bring it back to them. So the hypocrisy is that they say they should respect other animals, but they're responsible for their exploitation. So we have to make this undeniably clear. We have to make this gap undeniably clear, and they will feel it immediately. They will say, oh, they'll think to themselves, oh, I'm a hypocrite. They'll feel that, and you'll see it in their face. They'll get a little bit tiny more, they'll shift around. They'll try to come up with excuses to justify their position. Oh, I just said we should respect other animals, and now here I am trying to justify their exploitation. They'll feel it. And we want to expose that. And then we tell them, do you know the original definition of veganism? We ask them. And here, This is the issue that I was speaking of. Everyone will always say, you don't eat meat or eggs or things like that. They'll always talk about diet, always. And you tell them it's the ethical principle that humans should live without exploiting other animals. That animals are not here for us, but with us. Rejecting animal exploitation. Whatever you say to address the human supremacist mindset. But you can also make it clear that it's not a diet or a lifestyle or an identity. It's just an ethical principle. And just so we're on the same page, exploitation means using someone for a selfish purpose. Also be clear about what exploitation means. So some people don't know what that means. So make it clear to dismantle those. Here we determine the character. Do you know the biggest advantage to living vegan? Do you know the number one benefit of living vegan? And everyone will say health. They'll always say health. But you'll know if someone's on the right path when they say, I'll stop doing this. I'll stop being responsible for this. And they'll tell you. And you know you're on a good path. But if they say health, for them, you will no longer be the reason that this is happening. And for you, when you say that we should respect other animals and you're vegan, you will no longer be a hypocrite. I let them sit. Let them sit. Let them really feel the weight of their hypocrisy. And let them really feel that there's no other option than to go vegan if they want to stop being a hypocrite. And I let them sit there, and they will nod their heads, and I watch them go through these feelings. And this is very important feelings. It's holding them accountable. So we want to evaluate their willingness to align their actions with their own values, their own stated values, that we should respect other animals, that we should not exploit them. So this is the biggest advantage, is relief. They'll no longer be a hypocrite. It's very simple. Maybe they'll have lower cholesterol or whatever it is, but that's not important. We don't talk about health, we talk about the character. So here is where they're feeling like shit at this point. They're feeling guilty. And here's where we extend our hand and we help them out here. Do you feel there's anything preventing you from living vegan? And they'll usually say something like something health related or convenience. They'll say, oh, it's just so easy. Okay, well, if you were in their position, would you want someone to read a label to stop exploiting you? Is that so hard? Is that so much to ask? If you were in the gas chamber? It's not hard. It's really not hard, and people will say excuses. And everything can always be boiled down to three. Either it's natural, we've always done it. It's nice, it tastes good, something about taste. Or it's necessary, I have to do it. And the convenience stems from the nice. Oh, it's about the taste, it's about how easy it is. But what about them? Is it easier for you to go find the plant-based option, or is it harder for them when you continue to exploit them? Bring it back to the animals and make it clear that they're responsible for it. And then after, you can say, does that satisfy your concern? Check in with them. Do you feel like there's anything else preventing you? And someone that's open, usually they'll only have 1 or 2 concerns maximum. At that third one, that's the third strike, they're going to have 20. So an open and reachable person, the people that have always said, yes, I'm going vegan, they never had more than 1 objection. And we test it. If this was no longer an issue for you, would you go vegan then? Would you go vegan today? And if they say no, that's it. You end the conversation there. Well, okay, for every day that you're not vegan, this happens because of you. Walk away. So the victim's position and urgency. So here we talk about, is there anything preventing you from living vegan? And some people will say things like, oh, I have to try, maybe I can try reducing, or I'm going to think about eating less animals and more plants. Okay, well, if you were in your victim's position, how fast would you need this to end? Most people that are open, they get it. They nod their heads and they say, yeah, right now, immediately. I need to stop right now. And they'll realize that it's not food for thought, that we're not here trying to get people to think about it. So, also, another thing, if you were in your victim's position, and I said, whatever they said, would you find that acceptable? Most people will say no, it's not acceptable. So here, how many animals should be exploited in your name? 0 or more than 0? And this is the question. This is the question where even a most reachable person may be not ready for change. They'll say, oh, I don't know yet. I don't want to commit to that yet. And that's when you bring it back to the victims. You go back even. You can literally just jump right back. Okay, well, if you were in their position, how fast would you want this to end? And if they don't get it, then they're not reachable. And that's fine. There will be people that do get it. And they'll say 0. They'll say it emphatically 0. So here, this is the solution, right? The solution is to stop exploiting animals. That's the solution to their hypocrisy. And we're not talking about reducing, right? Like, if we go down that path, okay, maybe it's 1 animal a month or something like that. If we do reducing of suffering, then if we keep going, then we end up brushing the ground before we walk, trying not to kill insects, right? That's not possible. It's not realistic. So we're not here to try to get everyone to live like a monk. We're here to just say that, they're no longer demanding the exploitation, that the amount of animals exploited for them in their name with their dollars is 0. Of course, even as vegans, you can make mistakes. Animals will continue to die because of us. When we drive our cars, there's bugs at the front. There's only so much you can do. So, this is the declaration, right? This is what we want from them. So, vegan from now? And they'll say yes, or they'll say, I'll think about it. And if you say, I'll think about it, again, it's a call to action. This is not food for thought. If you were in their position, you would want your oppressor to stop immediately. If you were in their position, you wouldn't want this. So there's no acceptable reason for you not to be vegan as of right now. For as long as you're not vegan, this will be happening because of you. And that's what you leave them with if they don't decide to go vegan. But many people, like I said, they will say yes, I'll go vegan. And at this point, this is something that I must explain. When we talk to non-vegans on the street, we do not shake their hands. When we say, hello, how do you feel about humans exploiting other animals? Many people will say, hello, and they'll put their hand out, but I'm like this. And I just leave it like that, and I let them put their hand back, And if they keep it there, I can say, well, I'll explain why I didn't shake your hand later on, if they even get there. But at this point, if they say yes, hand on that, and then they make the connection. Oh, I'm only going to get the handshake if I declare to go vegan. Because if you were in the gas chamber and someone said, oh, I'm going to think about it, and then you shook their hand, it's like you're reinforcing that it's acceptable to continue living as a non-vegan. It's not acceptable. So the handshake is a powerful tool, and we do not shake hands unless they declare to go vegan. And they will get it. That handshake is the most important handshake in their lives because they've just committed. It's the oldest contract in the book, right? Before we even had paper, before we had any of this, we had handshakes. So we only handshake if they declare to go vegan. And then here, we reinforce it even more. Do you agree that we should actively defend animals? And then we invite them to hold the screen immediately. We want to reinforce the behavior. Okay? Like, do you agree that animals deserve to be defended like I'm doing? And they'll say, yeah, what you're doing is great. What you're doing is awesome. I really respect this. And they'll come and they'll hold the screen with you if you invite them. So we don't want vegans to be passive. We don't want vegans to not be vocal for the animals. We want them to speak up, so that's the bar. We want them to actively defend animals. And so here is the flowchart directed at vegans. Pretty much kind of the same thing. So the original definition of veganism, we went through it. Do you feel it's acceptable if others disrespect animals? No, I don't think any of us feel that way. Do we agree that we should defend animals? I hope we all agree on that. If you were in their position, how fast would you need people to defend you? Very quickly. They're literally suffering right now. And are you able to join us now? This is just 2 hours a month. You don't have to do it every month. It's very simple. You hold the screen or you have these conversations, and we defend animals in this way. So same thing here. So don't be the vegan that non-vegans want you to be. Be the vegan that the animals need you to be. So, thank you so much.
When's the next one?
The next cube is on First Friday. So next Friday at 6:45 p.m. I will, if you can't make it, that's fine. We'll always have more cubes. I'm not going to stop doing this for a while. I'll invite you to our group chat and happy to try it out. Of course, there's no obligation to continue doing it forever, like I hope to do. But yeah, I'll send you the details, of course. Yes. Thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Sorry, I gotta go.
Yeah, questions that I could answer before you go? If you had any?
No notes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good luck. Questions? Yes, Marilyn.
What do you say to someone who says something stupid like, in the Bible it says God makes you eat meat, or it says that you can? Like they have some
So the first thing I would say is that the Bible never says that we have to eat meat, that it's required. There's no religious text, and this is a fact. There's no religious text that says that you have to do it. And then you bring it back to the animals. Well, if you were in their position and I said, oh, my religion says that I can kill you, would you find that acceptable?
Or they say something dumb like Jesus ate fish, when I don't even believe I think he was vegan.
Okay, well, I'm not sure you're not Jesus. You know what I mean? Bring it back to them. So you're not Jesus. And also, if he was here right now, would he find it acceptable that you're exploiting other animals? Bring it back to them. You always have to bring it back to them. So you can address what they say and then immediately bring it back to them.
I thought his last supper he had bread and wine. He didn't eat meat.
But then we start to get into arguing about the contents of the Bible when really we really just want to hold them accountable for being responsible for this. So regardless of what the Bible says, they need to know that they're responsible for what's happening. Does that make sense? Do you feel like that answered your question? Any other questions?
Have you been following up with the people that have committed? Like, are they? How does that work?
So yeah, I'm not lying when I say we've gotten 21 commitments, but I spent all the money on the meetup, not a private investigator. So I actually can't say with 100% certainty that all of those people are actually vegan. That's why they're commitments to going vegan, and that's what we're looking for. And even if they don't go vegan, they definitely will remember that conversation for a very long time because they'll remember how they feel. So I don't actually know. That's the truth of it. But yeah, one of the reasons why I did do the meetup is to hopefully get some of those people that are, and I actually did on the RSVP, I recognized some names. Because we say don't use sales tactics, but I like to ask people their names, and I like to refer to them by their names because I think that's a little more powerful. And I recognize some names, but I don't think that they're fully vegan because when I said, hey, this is only for vegans, they didn't come. So I don't know. But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. I wanted to make a space.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I agree that even just the conversation and the commitment in that moment should stay with them. Like,
Oh yeah, because then they'll even feel like a worse hypocrite, right? They committed. Yeah. Tell me, Thomas.
So I was wondering how this could be applied in like my personal life outside of activism because I'm afraid I'm a bit too agreeable, like my friends and family. I made a choice like a few months after I went vegan that I didn't want to lose all my friends.
Yeah.
Because I was very passionate about it, but I knew that if I kept talking about it with them incessantly, that they probably wouldn't want to continue talking to me. And is that just like
So
not
we.
sure what to do?
So yeah, that's very fair. And I want to acknowledge my bias that I have shed all my non-vegan friends. And I say that because I really do mean what I said when I think that I've tried to outreach them, and if they're not reachable, then I'm just going to think that they're weak. So that's number one. Not everyone has to live that way. What I would do going forward, and what I am doing now with the non-vegan people that I know, is I let them come to me. So I'm a very obvious vegan. I say, hey, I do vegan activism. I do these cubes of truth. You're always welcome to come. So they come to you. They're in your space. So you don't have to bring it up if you don't want to. But if it does come up, you have to make sure that the animals are priority and not them. And that when you speak to them the truth, they're going to see that. And if they dislike you because you told them the truth, then really they've just revealed a very important character trait to you. And then that gives you the decision on whether or not, these are tough. It's actually so much easier to talk with non-vegan strangers than it is with friends and family and people around you because those relationships can be, you don't want to lose them. The feeling of wanting to be agreeable and liked is very strong in these interpersonal relationships. So I don't want to give advice on your relationships, but I can tell you from experience that, I've invited, okay, so you were actually there at the Cube. I had a really bad argument with a friend over veganism. And I was friends with this person for years. And I always say I'm very quick to trust and I'm very quick to take it away. So we had a really bad argument, and we made up. And this is what I learned. I just learned to say, hey, come to the cube, see what I do, see why I do this. And I had the conversation with them as if they were any other person. So it's structured, right? You can do this, you can watch Dominion or a Dominion supercut with your family, and then you can have the conversation very calmly if you want to do it in that structured way. Just for me personally, the structure is very important. And I realized that I had poor judgment. My friend came to the Cube of Truth and told me that he doesn't care. So he's not really my friend anymore. Because how can I be friends with someone that literally doesn't care, A, about the animal exploitation, and B, something that is extremely important to me personally? So, living vegan, this is the hard part, right, of living vegan. It's not getting the plant-based options or anything. So I don't want to give advice on relationships. I'm not really the greatest person for that, but what I do know is that it helps to have some sort of structure around the hard conversations, and that's what the flowchart is for. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you feel like that answers your question?
Yeah, I mean, I would have like a follow-up question. That does make sense.
Tell me.
Appreciate that. But there are some people in my life, like some friends and family, that I do honestly believe are reachable, right? If I have some kind of structured conversation with them. And like, how should I go about that? Should I just ask some members of my family, like, hey, watch this with me, and then we can talk about it? Or like my friend, like property, so invite them to the queue. It's probably a good idea.
Inviting to the cube is excellent because it shows that you're committed, that this is a real thing that's happening, and it's not just you. Like there are other people, and I'm happy to hold the screens when you're outreaching them, Thomas, no problem. And so that's number one. Number two is you could say, hey, this documentary, or whatever it was that really changed you, this really changed me, and now it's become really important to me, and I would love for you to, engage with this with me if you're willing. And yeah, you could set up a thing that way, but just some sort of structure, and for them to understand that it is important to you. Because with those relationships, I think the part that will show you how much they care about the relationship is if they're willing to engage with something that's important to you. You know what I mean? Yeah, Andrew.
So I know you brought up trolls. I think this is also important, and it wasn't in the presentation, but can you talk a little bit about, and not to scare anyone, but can you talk a little bit about like when, let's say, the police get involved or called, or like the owners of wherever will come out and not want you on their premises, that sort of thing, like that, those kinds of interactions, and what to expect if you're a keeper.
Yeah, so we don't go anywhere where we're not allowed to be there. But of course, this is a very ugly truth. So no one wants us to be there. So we've been told, hey, we should leave, and I've stood the ground. Hey, we're allowed to be here, and we're going to continue to be here because I know the rights. I know our rights. And so Anonymous for the Voiceless is not in the business of doing these disruptive protests in which we go to places in which we're not supposed to be in. And we're always trying to follow the law, right? I think that's acceptable. Do you feel like that answers your question?
Yeah, no, absolutely, no, for sure. And just from some personal experience, like when I think we were at the market.
Yeah, the downtown market.
The police were called, but like, things were actually, Danny did stand their ground, and things were handled very in a very peaceful way. Like things didn't get out of hand. You know what I'm saying? And actually,
Yeah.
one time, some owners asked us to leave, and we're like, let's just weigh our options here. We can just move somewhere else. Let's just go right over here instead. So so that those kinds of things do happen, but I don't think it's really anything to be like super concerned about. But just so that when people do the cube and they do see that happen, it's not like they're not like taken aback by it. I guess if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to trust me, really, that like I'll make the best decision, and like I don't want to make it like the cubers and the volunteers, like y'all are the lifeblood. You're not like expendable. You're not like you're not here for me to push you around and do different things. So we're just going to be within the law, of course, and we're just here to show the truth and hold people accountable to that truth. So, you know, like if there's an issue, I always deal with the issue. I think on the psychological metric, I'm like a very disagreeable person. So like I'm very comfortable with disagreeing with people about where we should and shouldn't be. But we're always within our rights, within the law. We're on public property. We're not going in anywhere where we should be. So I hope that clears things up. Questions?
I just want to give you hope that I'm married to somebody who is very disagreeable with other people, very passionate. You remind me a lot of him.
Thanks.
Because we've been together for 26 years.
Oh, that's great.
He's my best friend. So
I love that. I love to hear that, Chris.
whatever you
Oh yeah, no, I know. I've
stay passionate.
yes, 100%. 100%. I've lost friends for being that way, but you know, the door's open to different friends that accept me for my disagreeableness. But yeah.
Thank you.
Of course. So, any other questions, concerns, topics? Yes, Thomas.
Just one more question.
Yeah.
So, I'm not that physically fit. Like, I'm not unhealthy or anything.
Yeah.
I, think I'm all right, but I'm not like physically strong. Do you think that's something that I should really be? Is that important for me to focus on?
So I mean,
'Cause it seems right, like living as a good example of I can actually be big, but I'm really small, and I don't want people when I tell them I'm vegan to be like, oh, look at this guy, he's very skinny. Clearly, there's something wrong with this.
but you're breathing and living in front of them. So that's number one. And number two, like, don't let that stop you, because there are so many people that live vegan and they're disabled. And who am I to be like, oh, you can't speak up for the animals because you're not a picture perfect, whatever that vision is that you may have of an activist. That's unreasonable. If getting into better shape is important to you, then I would definitely pursue that. And I will say, being an example is extremely powerful motivator, but it's not a requirement. The requirement is that you hold them accountable, and you're there in front of them, and that's proof enough, I would say.
Well, I do want a motivator, so keep that in mind.
No, you have to be super fit.
No, I'm not. I'm not gonna tell that to you, because I would be lying.
You can tell them for
Yeah.
longer.
Yeah.
But like I said, it doesn't hurt. Like, it certainly doesn't hurt, because most people, and really, like, it just takes 3 to 6 months of consistent effort to look like you move things around. Like, but at that point, like, most people are not willing to do that. So at that point, it's undeniable. It speaks for itself. You're already past 80% of the average person or whatever. But it's not a requirement. No way. Any other questions?
I love that you look like you move things around.
Yeah, I mean,
You lift the heavy thing.
Yeah, exactly. But because that's it, right? But
So are we all
yes.
gonna be added to the group chat?
Yeah, I'm gonna text you privately. I'm gonna ask for your permission to be added. If you would like to be added after that, I'll add you. And we talk on Signal. So this is a private, end-to-end encrypted communication platform, because we're not doing anything illegal. I like being on Signal, so that's what we're gonna do as me, the organizer. But yeah, that's where our group chat is. And the next cube is next Friday at around 6:45 p.m. And happy to have you for however long you're willing to commit. Cool. Thank you.